Welcome back, I'm Multeyemeteor, and this time around we are taking a look at the Avacyn's Glory deck at the first look here. Yeah, I definitely like this deck. It's very powerful, very fast. It's also like it should come as no surprise because everybody is playing this deck because it's just so powerful. But let me show you how I've built it. I keep the Mikaeus, the Lunark, because I want to have some ways of pumping all my guys and just in reinforcing and fortifying my board state. So if I do get into a situation where there's a stalemate, this guy can break it in a matter of a few turns. Aside from that, I'm running as many champions of the Paris as I can because it's just a solid card in this deck. Running both Path to Exile. Don't think there's let's just see here. Yeah, I don't think there's any other Path to Exile than aside from these two, and you just want to run them because it's one of the most powerful removal cards in the format. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, is pretty awesome, especially in this deck because she makes it difficult for your opponent to play with you, and the fact that she has first strike is really awesome. Makes her so much better than Thraben Valiant, which is going to trade with a lot of things where you would have preferred to keep the Valiant yeah. So Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, is better in my opinion. Also, she's a legendary creature, so you can't play both of them, which kind of sucks. But it is a useful card for slowing down your opponent's non-creature spells and that sort of stuff. Elite Inquisitor is pretty good for having first strike and vigilance, and if you're playing against the zombies deck, Dead Walkers, then it's even better. So a 2/2 for 2 with first strike and vigilance is just an awesome bear to begin with. And we have a Grand Abolisher, a 2/2 for 2, another bear. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. Another way of tying your opponent's side down a little bit and forcing him to play his tricks at pretty much at sorcery speed. It makes your opponent's plans that much more transparent. Aside from that, it's just a solid 2/2 or a decent 2/2, I guess. So I mean, it's not if its ability is not going to be that relevant at the point in time where you play it, it's still going to be a 2/2 for 2 human, so that's gonna interact with most of your cards. So pretty decent in my opinion. You have a couple of unruly mobs. I'm not sure if I run all of them, to be honest. Yeah, I do. I kind of have a problem with the unruly mobs and the champion of Paris because they kind of want something like they want different things. Um, they're not entirely or mutually exclusive in terms of strategy and synergistic effects, but they kind of set up for different things in a way. And the problem with him is that he's not a two cost that you just want to play and throw in front of anything. You want to play him and you want your guys to die, but you don't want your guys to die because you're playing a lot of good things. That so basically what you're doing with this guy is that you're hoping to cast some Gather the Townfolk or something like that, and have them chump block so they can become bigger, and Unruly Mob becomes bigger, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, he's never gonna be ideal, but there's these very specific times where everything has gone in a certain way that will help out your Unruly Mob, and suddenly he becomes a significant board presence, or he's just gonna become a 3/3 or a 4/4, and that's gonna be significant enough for you to actually gain some use out of him. But yeah, I don't know. Like it requires some thinking and some trickery, so he's not as the most agile card to play with, in my opinion. There's a couple of Honor of the Pure in here, and you would be insane for not running them. Although I think it's a little bit, it is a little bit strong. This deck definitely doesn't need it, but it makes the deck just amazing. Then you have I'm running all four of Gather the Townfolk because it's just a good card. Two creatures, 1/1 creatures for two, especially when there's so much synergy with human creatures in this deck is powerful, even if it's at sorcery speed, and even if they don't have flying, like Lingering Souls and so on. And the fact that if you're way down in life and then you just play it and you gain 5 tokens instead of two, and that could actually switch the game around for you. So it's just a really good card that's gonna work for you most of the time. Thraben Doomsayer is too good not to include. His Fateful Hour ability is insane. The fact that he can put humans into play is really, really good. Works well with Champion of the Paris. Works well with Gold Dawn, whatever. We'll get around to him, I guess. Anything that has a any kind of effect whenever a human comes into play is gonna benefit from this guy. All Fiend Hunters are included because Fiend Hunter is one of the best removal cards in there. Gives you a 1/3. Of course, it also makes it a fragile removal tactic, but it's not bad. Get yourself a 1/3 that's a human, which affects some of your synergistic effects. Plus, it removes a creature, at least for as long as this guy is into play. It's just too good not to include. Then you have Midnight Guard, which is I don't know. I think I took him out until the very end when I figured out that I needed to remove one land to not get flooded too much, and I put Midnight Guard back in. Elder Cathar is yeah, he's difficult to play with if you're an opponent. It's a nice thing to like. It would be more awesome if he was at a 2 cost, because that's when perhaps against really aggressive decks. This is an aggressive deck as well, but at any point against a truly aggressive deck that for some reason out aggroed you, this would be a nice guy to just throw on the battlefield and a chomp block and put those 2 counters of one of your human creatures. So yeah, just a good card because it is kind of a 2-for-1 effect. You get a creature, and when he dies, you get to buff one of your other creatures, and usually it's going to be +2/+2. So really good in that regard. Again, removal, you need it, and I think this deck pretty much has the strongest removal, at least to the effect that you exile permanents or creatures or something with with not only the Oblivion Ring, but also Path to Exile, and also Fiend Hunter, as long as it remains on board. And the fact that you can do that just makes it so that your removal is so powerful, because there's no strategy that that puts those creatures back into play. So really, really strong. Restoration Angel, I kind of considered not including her, even though she's probably one of the most insane cards printed ever. But the reason that I thought about not including her is that she doesn't work that well with. I mean, there are some strategies and there are some combos, but there's nothing really apparent that does a whole lot for you. But you can, of course, use her to flicker one of your humans and use Gold Knight Commander in that regard, and that's at instant speed, so that's a nice effect. There's a couple of others, like for example, if somebody's about to take out Fiend Hunter, you just flicker him, or if you've exiled a creature that's less significant in terms of board presence now than it used to be, but your opponent just played some huge fatty, you just flicker Fiend Hunter and exile the new fatty. So yeah, there's a couple of things. I mean, there's also, for example, Champion of Paris works well with him. In regards to whenever you flicker a human, a champion of perish becomes bigger. So there's always that. Then you have, well, I guess Gold Knight Commander here, which is just an awesome card. Uh, if your opponent is not successful in removing him, your side is going to be pretty significant really, really quickly in terms of just being able to take some huge swings into your opponent's defense. So yeah, it's self-explanatory. Really, really good card. Angelic Overseer is very nice, especially because it doesn't take a lot for her to gain hexproof and indestructible. So a 5/3 for 5 with flying and hexproof and indestructible is pretty fucking insane in my opinion. And it's especially valuable against any kind of deck that has an evasive strategy that goes into the air, which is kind of like it's Masks of Demir, it is the Mirror, and it is Mind Maze, and I can't remember. I guess also Enter the Dracomancer. Um, Stuff like that, decks like that makes this guy or this card kind of significant and powerful. And the fact that it has hexproof and indestructible also makes it a nice blocker against Chant of Multeyemeteor and so on. So really, really good in that regard. It's very difficult to get rid of for Flame Wave or Fire Wave or whatever that deck is called. Baneslayer Angel is an all-star and is probably one of the best cards ever printed as well. It's really, really good. 5 cost, 5/5 flying first strike, lifelink protection from demons and from dragons and probably also dungeons. Really, really good. Very good. Geist Honored Monk doesn't give you human creatures except for the monk itself, but it gains a lot from you running a lot of weenies. Plus, you get a couple of flyers, which might be significant. If nothing else, it will be a way to get in through your opponent's defenses because there's not a lot of flying in this format. So yeah, very good. Increasing Devotion is nutty. It's very, very cool. It's very easy to play for 5. Gives you 5 human creature tokens. And with Gold Knight Commander or with Champion of the Parish, it's completely insane. When you get to flashback it, holy bananas. That is some insanity that's going to take place there. Twilight Shepherd, 6 cost, 5/5 flying vigilance. When Twilight Shepherd enters the battlefield, return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. Now, you can't, as far as I remember, flicker this gal with Restoration Angel because she is an angel here, but the fact that she has Persist makes it so that you can use her twice probably, or if not, you have a 5/5 flying vigilance angel that does stuff for you when you play her. So you can make a huge swing that'll confuse your opponent and probably break a stalemate that would have normally cost you too much to break, and not worry too much about what you're losing. Play this guy and regain all your creatures, and it might be very, very a very, very unfortunate trade for your opponent, or something. Maybe it seems like a fortunate trade, but you end up with a lot of good stuff back from your graveyard plus the Twilight Shepherd. So, I think all in all this build is pretty solid. It's definitely focused on weenie creatures. Has 25 creatures. Most of them are tiny or early drops, lots of 2 drops there. I know people want that beautiful curve there, but I think in a deck like this you'd like to be able to play several creatures in one turn, so you don't mind some of them being smaller, because a lot of them are going to give you a lot of value. So yeah, I think that's definitely something to take into account, and that's why I've never been too fascinated by, I'm not the best player in the world, so take my words as you for whatever you want, but never been a huge. I've never been too enthralled by the idea that you need to curve out by any means. Sometimes it's good to have like a huge spike in the early drops, or if your strategy allows it, your build allows it, maybe you have a huge spike later on. So it's very very contextual whether or not you want to curve out. But for me, I mean, I have I have 27 spells at a land drop or at converted mana cost 3 or below, and I have 9 spells at 4 or above, and just one single spell at a 6 drop. So I think this deck runs pretty smoothly. I guess I could even take out another land, but I think being able to eventually make it to the 9 drop for this, if the game is going long, be in you might end up in a stalemate. You don't want to get land screwed. You want some kind of land consistency. Then again, you don't want to get land flooded. So yeah, there's that. Anyways, let's take a look at the cards that I didn't bring. Doom Travel, I think, does too little. I mean, he is a good card by any means, like really, really good. The fact that he gives you 2 creatures is amazing, but the second creature you get is not a spirit, and I like Champion of the Parish more. I don't need any more early drops. This guy is too transparent for me, and I mean, I would rather be solidifying early on than trying to get in for a semi-huge swing early on. I don't think this guy does enough for you. Um, Soul Warden, I don't really see the point in building this deck towards life gain. I would much rather build it towards solidifying and beating face. Hallow is pretty decent. I might end up taking either land out or Midnight Guard or something and putting in a single Hallow, but I think again it's too contextual. It's going to help you against the Sliver Hive, and it's going to help you against Fire Wave or Flame Wave or whatever it's called, because it has, it has deal damage spells. I guess also whatever it's called. I guess Grave of Deadwalkers has something like that as well, but not a lot of decks run um, you know, damage dealing spells. So it's going to be too contextual to be running it to like at a consistent pace or whatever you want to call it. Like I said earlier, Thraben Valiant looks kind of decent, 2-1 Vigilance, but most of the time you're just gonna sit there and your opponent has a 1-1 or a 2-2, and either you're going to just throw this guy under the bus and chomp, or you're going to get really, really annoyed with this card because you're not going to be able to get in there at all until you can build it up, make it stronger with Mikaeus or with Honor of the Pure. And even with Honor of the Pure, you're only getting to 3/2, which is decent enough for doing damage, but if your opponent has creatures that he doesn't mind trading with you, then it's very, very easy. It just takes 2 power to get rid of this card. So I'm not too impressed with it. I'd rather use different strategies like Grand Abolisher, Unruly Mob, Elite Inquisitor, especially Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, and lots of Gathered Townfolks. So yeah, Bonds of Faith is pretty decent for an aura, but aside from that, I mean, it's versatile. The cool thing about it is that it's an arrest or a buff spell, so it is versatile. It gives you some flexibility. But aside from that, I'm not too impressed with it. Mentor of the Meek is a card which people are probably gonna fault me for not putting in here, but the thing is that with Honor of the Pure, there's a lot of time where you're not going to be able to get a lot of traction out of this guy. So that's the main reason I preferred Honor of the Pure to Mentor of the Meek. And the few times that it'll gain me cards, then it's just going to be good. No doubt about it. But the other times where you're just going to be playing it, it's a 2/2 for 3 that does nothing for you. I'm just not, it's not going to be good enough. Um, sure, gather the townsfolk and a single Honor of the Pure. Maybe you want to include one Mentor of the Meek. Certainly not two of them if you plan on running Honor of the Pure and so on. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not too impressed with it in this deck. Elgard Inquisitor, definitely a decent card. It's just a little overcosted, even if it does make a spirit creature token. The fact is that when you drop it at turn 4 or later on in the game, the lifelink is going to be sweet because since you're filling up your slots with creatures like this, you're a little behind in terms of like filling or buffing up your board state, and you're going to need the ability to lifelink. I don't think you necessarily need the ability to lifelink otherwise, and you're probably going to be using this as a chump blocker, so you're not going to be getting a lot out of the lifelink unless you are really cautious with this guy. So I don't really think, I mean, I can definitely see you running him in some decks, but in this deck I just think he's too slow and not synergistic enough. Seraph of Dawn, I don't want too many angels, and I don't think she's good enough. I mean, it's a great card, but I don't think she's aggressive enough, so I didn't include any of them. Angel's Mercy is completely silly to me, unless you like. If you're going to need to play this card, you probably didn't build Avacyn's Glory aggressively enough. Remember, you have a lot of removal. There's no need to be running life gain if you have a lot of removal. Ring of Three Wishes is way too slow for me. And I can't see, like, of course, it's very easy to come up with some kind of situation where you can say, well, if only I had that Honor of the Pure, or if only I had that Oblivion Ring, or if only I had that Angelic Overseer, or something like that. But since you're running, like, you're just mostly running good cards, you don't really need Ring of Three Wishes because you're going to be playing a lot of good cards. And there are too many good cards in this deck. You're not going to be unhappy seeing most of the cards that you're running, or at least I don't feel unhappy about drawing, I would say, pretty much most of the cards that I'm running here. Perhaps late game I wouldn't want to run a Midnight Guard, or I wouldn't want to draw a Midnight Guard. Maybe not a Grand Abolisher, but you know, like the most of these cards, like even a Champion of the Parish late game, is decent because you know he's gonna grow unless he's getting taken out. So, I mean, yeah, Ring of Three Wishes is all right, but it's a little slow again, and it forces you to think in a slow manner. Hallowed Burial, put all creatures on the bottom of their owner's library. No way, man. That's something that people want to be doing to me. That's not something I want to be doing because I want to get in there with my creatures that's just getting progressively bigger. Requiem Angel, again, a little slow. I don't want too many angels. It's a great card, though, don't get me wrong, but again, I don't want to focus on spirits because I don't have anything to buff the spirits. Again, well, I do have the Honor of the Pure, but aside from that, I want to focus on humans because humans does things to the other humans in this deck. Deathless Angel is too expensive. It's great and all, but it's just too expensive. I can't have too many 6-drops. This is way too expensive for a 3/3 flyer and a token. No, thank you. Too slow. Marcher's Bond. Whenever Marcher's Bond or another non-land permanent you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a permanent that shares a card type with it. Way too slow. Way too slow and way too random. Archangel, 7 cost, Flying Vigilance, 5/5 is not good enough. Devout Invocation, 7 cost is really, really good, but it's too expensive to be running it, I think. I mean, well, you could run it, definitely, but I don't know. I wouldn't want to sit with this card in my hand like nine out of 10 times. So why run it? Avacyn, Angel of Hope, is almost worth running, even though she's an 8-drop, just because she's so insane. Talk about breaking stalemates, or talk about doing stuff for you at the late game. But again, it's not a card that I would like to have at any other point than really, really late game. And at this point in time, I think I should have solidified, or I think I should be a force to reckon with compared to my opponent. So yeah, I don't know. Like, you might have many other ways of building it. I'm sure that a lot of you guys disagree with some of my decisions, or choose for some reason, perhaps just because you like the card or not, to run some of the cards that I've chosen to take out. That seems to be the case a lot of the time, and that's what's good about the game, is that you have the option to choose from 30 unlockable cards that you can build your deck with. So I'd love to hear what you guys are running. I'd love to hear what you guys are don't think I should be running, and perhaps also tell me why exactly I should be running something. I do expect somebody to recommend Mentor of the Meek. I do expect most people to understand my reasoning concerning the Angels, or concerning at least Avacyn or something like, or Devout Invocation, but I'm pretty sure that most of you can see the logic to my thinking here, that you want to focus on humans because you have like Champion of the Parish, you have well, that doesn't really do much in that regard. Let's see, what else do we have? Maybe not that much. Elder Cathar, definitely. Yeah, maybe it's not that many creatures that benefit from other human creatures, but still, I like to keep it somewhat lean, even though a few of the angels are simply just necessary for me to run because they're too good. Anyways, tell me what you think, and hope you enjoyed. This was Avacyn's Gloria first look, and yeah, later.